So before I moved down here to Arizona, I was looking for a job, and somebody had recommended that I apply to an assisted living facility that just happened to be down the street, which was convenient for me. And it was one of these high end ones, a real fancy one, not one of these cheap ones where you dump Nana at when she reaches a certain age. So I had never worked in an old folks' home before, but I did have 15 years experience working in restaurants, and they had a big dining area and they were looking for servers. And so I thought maybe this is going to be a good fit. I mean, at this point, I'd been passing out my resume just everywhere in town, just sort of seeing what would stick and going with that. And up until this point, the only experience I had working with senior citizens was working at the Red Lobster seafood restaurant and serving up those crusty crabs, endless supplies of Cheddar Bay biscuits. And so I thought, like, okay, who knows? We'll just see what happens if I get a call back or whatever. And so, sure enough, a few days later, I get called in for an interview and I'm kind of excited about it, right? Like, okay, so this might work out. And so the culinary manager starts to explain to me that this is a memory care facility and that many of the residents suffered from mild to moderate dementia. And for those of you that know me in real life, I have always had an absolutely terrible memory, which may or may not have been exacerbated by marijuana use over the years. And so I thought, like, that's cool. That's cool. That could be a good fit. I might fit right in with the residents. I didn't tell him that, of course, but he went on to explain that this is primarily an Asian facility and that the majority of the residents that were there were Chinese. And so he asked if I happened to speak any Mandarin. And that kind of caught me off guard and made me chuckle internally because I think the answer is pretty obvious just from looking at me. But the closest I'd ever come to Mandarin was eating those tiny oranges that come in a fishnet bag. And the extent of my knowledge of the Chinese culture basically consisted of Disney's Mulan and General Tso's chicken. So I smiled and told him, no, I don't speak Mandarin. Sorry. So he went on to explain that many of the residents and even many of the employees spoke little to no English. And he asked me how I would go about navigating that. So I thought about it for a minute and I told him that I had Google Translate on my phone and I was pretty good at charades. And so, putting those two together, I think I could figure it out. And he reached out his hand and shook mine and hired me on the spot. So that was the correct answer, apparently. On my first day, I was told that the residents all come into the dining area for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They all come in simultaneously, just like clockwork. And so, I'm looking at the clock, and sure enough, as soon as it hits 7 a.m., I witnessed something that was straight out of a zombie movie. So I look around the corner where they're coming from, and I witness this horde of just glacially slow people shuffling straight towards me. Their bodies are all hunched over and bent out of shape, just slowly creeping past me with their walkers and their canes and their withered limbs. They've just got these sunken, milky eyes just silently scanning me up and down as they pass me by. Their mouths are slightly agape, just sort of filled with jagged teeth and tiny pools of saliva, just sort of passing me by, muttering to themselves. Are they talking to me? Are they talking to themselves? I can't really tell. Just kind of wheezing with these ancient lungs, attempting one more dusty inhale as they make their way to their tables. They've just got this paper thin skin sort of sagging and drooping and bruised, just looking like it was slowly slipping off their bones, succumbing to gravity once and for all. And the aroma that wafted around me, swirled around me, was just sort of this strange mix of like menthol and fermented bean paste and like old curtains. Hello, my fellow misfits. It's gosh dang good to see you again. If you're enjoying what I'm doing here, if you're loving it like I am, and you want to support me somehow, some way, that's all right. Put your wallet away. No, I'm not asking for donations, but what I am asking for is your support. And if you want to support me, what I'm doing here, I would love you to follow me. I'm on Spotify if you want to listen to the full podcast. I'm on YouTube if you want to listen to the full podcast. But I've also been posting to X and Instagram and TikTok. If you're interested, you can follow Cult of Misfits on those platforms as well. I'm posting clips and reels and just sort of shorter versions of the podcast on those platforms as well. So if you want to help me out, if you love what I'm doing here, I would appreciate just even a thumbs up or a share or a like or a follow would be greatly appreciated. I create these backgrounds with the help of our AI overlords. And it gave it this weird silhouette in the background. And at first I was like, no, 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 no. But then I threw it up here and I'm like, okay, it's kind of weird. Let's just go with it. It kind of reminds me of like, after we dropped the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, how the shadows were kind of permanently blasted onto the buildings. That's sort of what it looks like has happened here. So not to get too dark, but hi, I'm back. Um, I have all these things I want to talk about. And so the divine sort of pushed me and nudged me today to just sort of speak from my heart and sort of talk about what's going on in my life and to just be vulnerable, which, is not always easy for me. And I started thinking about it, and it's sort of ironic. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just interesting that I feel more vulnerable and open to talk about just anything and everything here on the podcast, and not so much in real life, which I find interesting, right? Like, I find that when I sort of open up and share with what's going on in my life with actual human beings in my life, it doesn't always go the way that I want, right? I'm not getting the sort of reaction or interaction that my heart is sort of desiring and seeking, right? I mean, we all have these struggles in our life and everybody's struggling and going through hurdles and challenges, etc. And every time I share those challenges and hurdles with people, I just sort of feel like a Debbie Downer. I just sort of feel like a negative Nelly. Like, nobody wants the complainer. Like, oh, my life sucks. Listen to what happened to me yesterday, or oh, last week this happened, and blah 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 blah. Like, I don't want to talk to those people. And maybe you're not like that, but I definitely am. And perhaps I'm just sort of projecting my own, you know, views upon the way that I talk to people. But um, I have a hard time sharing because I just don't want to put that yuck, that, depression onto other people. Like I've talked about before, I don't have a very, I don't have a lot of empathy, right? When I talk to other people. And so maybe that's just me, but, I don't want to hear about other people's problems in general. And I just sort of assume that nobody else wants to hear about mine. And so I just tend to clam it up, right? Because I feel like when I do share things with people, I want people to feel bad for me, or I want some sort of an emotional response, or I want them to pull out a tiny violin and play me a little song that, talks about the woes in my life. But I just feel like, the reaction that I get when I share these things with people is often like, well, that sucks, buddy. I'm like, yeah, I know that. That's why I'm sharing it with you. I was hoping to, get a hug out of this thing or something. But, it's not exactly the response I'm looking for. Is like, well, cheer up. It'll probably get better eventually. And I'm like, okay, cool. Good conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then I just clam up again and go and hit record and make a podcast about it. So here I am. And I feel like this has always been a good vehicle and a good venue for me to sort of, just work through the shit that I'm dealing with and talk through it. Because oftentimes I feel like I get in my own head and, I'm up at 3 a.m. just overthinking things. And so the divine said, just talk about it. And so that's what I'm doing. And I feel like there's something to it. I'm getting a little tingle just as I say those words. And so that maybe it resonates with you too, that I feel like, it's good to talk about, right? Because oftentimes I put on these masks and this sort of fake facade, like, oh, everything's okay over here. Don't worry about me. Everything's going great. Right. But it's not. It's not. But like I said, I don't want to share it. I don't want to be that guy. So it feels good to just sort of drop the facade, to just be real, to just be vulnerable, to just be, what am I looking for? Authentic, right? To just be authentic about it because we're all struggling, right? So it feels good to talk about it. I've got some drama in my life that I want to talk about. And it's not just going to be a pity party, but what I get out of talking about this is not just wallowing in the pity and the misery and the struggle, but I feel like there's a lot of what am I looking for? I get a lot out of working my way through it, and perhaps it's you're getting something out of it too, right? How I deal with the struggle, how I deal with the pain, how I deal with overcoming it, how I deal with the stress and the fears and whatever. And so oftentimes the voice in my head, which I call Hal's often telling me, oh, you're talking about this again, right? Like I struggle with addiction and these patterns and struggling with these crutches in my life that I rely upon rather than seeking these freedoms that I'm always constantly searching for in my life and breaking free from these things. And Hal's always like, oh, this again, right? But I feel like it resonates with a lot of you, and not that that's the purpose of these videos. The purpose of the videos is that like it resonates with me, and so I talk about it. And if you dig it, great. That's how that works. So I feel like I always want to. I feel a bit embarrassed talking about the whole addiction thing because I feel like aren't we over this by now? Like Hal's telling me like we still haven't you gotten over this by now? Like you're such a loser, right? Like you haven't defeated these things that you're struggling with your whole life. What is your problem? You're not good enough, right? And then I start believing Hal and thinking like, oh, you're right, I'm not good enough. One of these days I'll be good enough. One of these days I'll be perfect, right? What a joke. So I have to constantly remind myself, the divine often reminds me lovingly with a divine hug or a divine pat on the back that says, bud, the goal of this thing is not to be perfect. That's not going to happen. Okay. So the goal of this thing is growth and transformation. It's not about forcing that growth and transformation. And it's about loving yourself through the process. Right. That's hard for me. Very hard for me. And in all fairness, just to love myself a little bit, I've gotten so much better at doing that over the years. So kudos to me of recognizing when I am beating myself up, recognizing when I get into those thought patterns of, um, telling myself how, what a failure I am, right? And to recognize that it's just one step at a time, right? That perfection will never be achieved. Oftentimes, I feel the need to do everything all at once. Like I have these things that I'm addicted to. And it's not just substances, it's, thought patterns that I get addicted to, or negativity that I get addicted to, or reaching for my cell phone every 5 minutes, or going on Instagram every 5 minutes, or, alcohol or whatever, marijuana. And so I beat myself up when I'm not able to just go cold turkey on everything overnight because that's unreasonable. But Hal tells me that if I don't quit everything overnight, then I'm a piece of shit. So I gotta put a little duct tape over that guy's mouth and just ignore it because it's not true. It's a lie. It's the enemy, or the great lie. And so I just have to ignore that and lean into the love, lean into the baby steps. Like I have to remind myself, like, is this how I would treat the inner child, the little kid Matt Owens with the sweet, precious little blue eyes? Would I say, you're a piece of shit? Why can't you figure your shit out, dude? Like, no, of course not. But deep down inside, that's the guy that's struggling, is the little version of me that just wants to be better and try his best. And so I have to remind myself that that's to have a little grace with myself, right? So what I've been doing lately that works for me, that's why I'm sharing it, because it's been fairly successful, right? I don't want to pretend that I'm on the mountaintop here, like, hey guys, I figured this shit all out, and now I'm going to tell you how I did it and take notes because I got it all figured out. Because I ain't got shit figured out, guys, and I don't anticipate getting it all figured out until the day that I die, right? Until all is revealed. But until then, life's going to be a struggle, and I have to. I'm learning to become okay with that. Learning to be okay with the suffering that comes along with that, right? Because it's not all suffering. It flips and flops, right? There's suffering, and then there's joy on the other side of that. And there's more suffering, and then there's joy on the other side of that. It goes back and forth. That's both sides of the coin, right? So for me, I've got all these things I'm addicted to. Whether you can relate to my personal addictions or not, maybe you have your own special, fun addictions that you're dealing with. I'm sure we're all addicted to social media, like I said. So that's something I'm sure we can all agree upon. But what I'm working on is I found an app that Let me take a step back. What I play the New York Times Wordle game every day. I love the Wordle. I love playing Strands. I love playing the Connections game. So shout out to those of you that love playing the New York Times Wordle game. If you love word games, I highly recommend it. It's just an app on your phone, so check it out. But it gives you a streak. So if you finish the puzzle every day, that's one day. You finish it 2 days in a row. So it gives you a streak as to how many days in a row you've successfully finished the puzzle, the Wordle. And it starts to get exciting because as you start approaching like 30 days or 50 days or 100 days, it's like, yeah, let's do this. In fact, not to brag, but I just passed the 100-day mark. So I'll toot my own horn on that. Real proud of that. As it starts approaching like day 98, day 99, I'm like, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up, don't fuck this up. Right? But I successfully surpassed the day 100 on Wordle, guys. And that is something that I would love to have written on my tombstone. So take note, please. Whoever is in charge of taking care of my tombstone, I want that on there. But it's motivating. It just activates whatever chemicals within the brain get excited about passing 100 days of Wordle successfully. And so I found an app that's very similar. What you do is you can put in your various vices that you're dealing with, and then it keeps track of how many days you've gone without smoking, drinking, eating, whatever. And so it starts to get exciting. It's kind of daunting as it's like day 1, day 2. It's like, this is taking forever, right? Like it's a real slog through the mud here. But as you hit day 4, day 5, as you get that first week under your belt, your first 2 weeks under your belt, you're like, okay, this is gaining some steam. It's gaining some momentum. I'm kind of feeling good about this now. So it sort of feels good to see all the numbers up on the board slowly creeping their way up, right? And learning to not beat yourself up when you falter. Like, for example, Thanksgiving was recently, and I gave myself some grace on that day because I sort of went, overboard is a matter of opinion and perspective. But for me, I went overboard. I had a real bad stomach ache after Thanksgiving, but I was thankful for that stomach ache. So it was fucking delicious, guys. But, I've been trying to curtail my drinking, alcohol. And I had a glass of wine. I didn't get trashed. I didn't get toasted, but I had a glass of wine. And I was like, you know what? That's okay if I had a glass of wine. I'm not going to beat myself up over that. I actually, at that point, was on like day 9 of no sugar. And sure went nuts with the 14 pies that were there and cheesecakes and everything. But no regrets, guys. No regrets. It was beyond delicious, and I'll take that stomach ache any day because it was very, very, very worth it. But I'm proud of myself for no sugar. See, what I did was I started out with baby steps. I thought like, tackling the big ones in my life seemed daunting. So let's just sort of tackle the small ones and sort of work my way up. So sugar seemed reasonable. At that point, 9 days ago, now 11 days ago, thank you very much, pat on the back, I was just I was in a fog. Every day I was waking up foggy, feeling just shitty and drained and not sleeping well. And I thought like, okay, let's try this sugar thing. Let's take it out of the diet for a few days and see what happens. Because I'm eating sugar. I love it. And so I took out the sugar, and after a couple of days, I started immediately feeling better. And I was like, ugh, that's annoying because I want more brownies. But I started feeling better, and I started using that tracker app that I told you about. I don't know the name of it. I should give it a shout out, but you can figure it out. There's a bunch of them out there. But I started feeling better. So today I'm at day 11, and it feels good. And the fog has generally gone away. And so I thought, like, okay, now that I got that plate spinning in the air, let's try tackling something else. So I started coffee. I've been feeling really led. My body's screaming at me, and the divine is not screaming at me, but lovingly telling me it'd be a good idea to quit some caffeine. And so I've been working on eliminating the coffee out of my diet. And I was on day 4 until this morning, right? And I'm just being honest here because this is my therapy session. This is my AA circle, my coffee circle, my my caffeine anonymous circle, where I had a cup of coffee. I was like, I feel like I want to record today. I want to make a podcast today. So I was feeling real lethargic because I hadn't had coffee in 4 days, and my body was like, ugh, not having it. I was just real tired, right? Sleeping 10 hours, just barely getting by. Like, I can push through this. So it was day 4 today, and I thought like I'll have a cup of Joe, just one, right? Not the 5 that I want to have, but I thought like one is reasonable. And so I had the coffee and I kind of regret it. I just kind of, I had good steam going there. I was kind of pushing through it. I was almost at a week, trying not to beat myself up, right? But I started getting a stomach ache because of the coffee, all the acid, and I just started feeling jittery. And it was a good reminder. So instead of beating myself up, I use it as a lesson learned. I thank the universe for giving me the opportunity to drink coffee today. I'm thankful that I had the experience of coffee today because it really fucked me up. And I'm glad that it was a good reminder to say, like, I don't want this in my life, right? Like, it's not what I think it's going to be. I was thinking, like, oh, it's going to be so great. I'm going to get energized. I'm going to be in a good mood and I'm going to be alert. But instead, I just feel like trash. And so it's just a good reminder, right? I'm not a cold turkey type of a guy. And so I know how I operate. I want to be a cold turkey guy. I want to be those hardcore guys that are like, oh, I wake up at 5 a.m. every day and I do, push-ups and the cold plunge and I do this before sunrise. And I'm like, I want to be that guy, but just realistically, I'm not. And I'm at peace with that now. And I try to remind myself when Hal tries to make me that guy and tries to tell me I'm a piece of shit when I'm not that guy, that's okay. Right. So it feels good to talk about, it, right? So anyway, I got to do baby steps. When I quit smoking cigarettes, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or whatever, time is an illusion. Who the hell knows? But it was a long time ago. You know, I quit cigarettes. It took me 500 plus times to finally quit. Oh, try this again, try this again, try this again. Same thing with marijuana. I smoked regularly. I was a huge stoner and pothead. It was a huge part of my life and my identity. And because of the tracker app I've been using, I haven't smoked weed in months. In fact, I just passed the 111 day mark recently, and I was proud of myself because I don't really miss it, to be honest with you. The fog has lifted that was just kind of always there, and just sort of the lethargy, who knows? Words are all just made up. Just feeling shitty all day, right? Unmotivated. Like I couldn't be making these podcasts on a regular basis if I was smoking weed all day long. That's just a fact. And so I'm sort of glad that I finally let it go. But again, it took 500 times to finally quit smoking weed, and here I am. And so next up on the docket is coffee. Alcohol is currently in process. I'm doing a great job with that, feeling better, and just generally focusing on just cleaning my vessel, just balancing my vessel. And not that it has to be a deep clean immediately, or I'm not good. I'm not good enough, right? But just, little scrub every day, right? Trying to cleanse and balance this avatar that I'm living in while I'm here in this dang 3D realm of ours, right? So I get caught in this trap too, that like if I'm not good enough or I'm not perfect enough, then God won't bless me, right? Part of this has to do with religion, I think. I grew up in a religious household, and part of that is sort of the indoctrination that comes with Christianity. And this is just my perspective and opinion, of course. I'm not here to preach theology to you because all I know is what I know and what I feel. So I've been told that, God will only bless you if you act correctly. God will only bless you if you do good things. And so I'm not always good. And what does that even mean? Good and bad are matters of perspective. And my mother and other Christians and the doctrine will tell you that there is good and it's very clear what is not good. And I'm like, well, that's a philosophical discussion that my mother is perhaps not ready to have, and that's okay. But I have a difference of opinion on that. And so I often get trapped in these thought patterns of not being good enough. I want to manifest all of these things in my life. But then Hal, the voice in my head, will tell me that, oh, well, you're not going to manifest it because you haven't conquered this yet, or you haven't rebalanced that yet, or you're not good enough for this yet. And so it always just keeps pushing out my blessings further and further and further. And I just keep trying harder and harder and harder and grinding and grinding and grinding. And God said, this is going to make me cry. There's no grace in that grind. Ooh, that just came to me. There's no grace in the grind, right? When God blesses you, it's a gift. It's not because of your works. And I had to let that sink in because that was powerful for me to hear. I needed to hear that because I was grinding my ass off, trying to be good enough every day, right? Part of that stems also from trying to be good enough for my parents, or good enough for society, or good enough for myself, right? And God said, my blessings to you are a gift. The roof over your head, that's a gift. The food in your belly today, that's a gift from me to you. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. You're welcome. It's not because you were good enough or holy enough or didn't smoke weed today. It has nothing to do with that. I give you these things because I love you, boy. And I needed to hear that, right? And maybe you needed to hear that. And so it's not to say that work isn't involved, hard work and trying to better yourself and trying to transform your life and rebalance, etc. Great. But give yourself the same grace that God gives you. Yes? What do you think of that? It's hard. It's really hard. Because it goes against the programming, right? And the societal programming, the programming from my parents growing up. You're not going to be blessed unless you work really, really hard, unless you do good enough. And God said, you're doing great, bud. You're doing great. And I needed to hear that. And you might as well. I have more stuff I want to talk about, but I think I might save it for another episode. I've been dealing with just a lot of fun drama at work and with my car. I'll give you a little sneak peek. I'll give you a little teaser. I just got fired. So we'll talk about that. There's some legal issues going on there, so I can't go into great detail, but there's some juicy bits that I want to share with you. Some stuff going on with my car that's a little risky that I want to talk about. That's a little, don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but there's a lot going on in my life. And I'm in this season right now of just leaning into faith and trust and not worrying about tomorrow, like I talked about in the last episode. And just trusting that the pieces will come together when they come together, right? And that there's a higher power that's looking out for me, that loves me dearly, that wants the best for me. And just sort of trusting that the doors will open when they open, right? Because oftentimes I try to force those fucking doors open. I want to go through them now. I'm scared. I don't know what's happening. I'm worried. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. Freaking out over here. Why won't this door open? And then sure enough, when I least expect it, a door behind me clicks open and I can walk right through. And the divine said, see, you're wasting all that time worrying about door number one. And you didn't know that I had door number two waiting for you. So don't worry about it. And that felt good. That was like a weight off my shoulders. So thank you for joining me. Loving what I'm doing here. And if you're also loving it, like I said in the beginning, I'd really appreciate it if you could follow me on whatever platform you're following me on. And so thanks for listening. Thanks for following me. I'm really appreciating interacting with all of you guys, all the comments, all of the thumbs up really encourage me to keep going with what I'm doing here. So I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to more videos. So if you like what I'm doing here, I appreciate the thumbs up. The algorithms love it. So please continue to give me a thumbs up and follow me on whatever platform you happen to be watching this on. It helps to support me and I appreciate it. I appreciate you and I love you. End transmission.